I've been budgeting my finances for the last decade, and it helped me pay off $43,000 of debt in just 13 months. And in this video, I'm going to be going through the things that I wish I knew back when I started, and hopefully that can kind of help you on your journey. But before we get into that, let's talk about how these videos are going to work, because I'm building my personal finance community in public daily with these videos. So the first thing, we're going to do some YouTube comment Q&A sort of thing. I want to just give you guys immediate value. Next thing, and probably the reason why you clicked on this video, I sort of talk about a topic, things that are on my mind to help you reach your financial goals faster. And yes, it's going to be lessons from my 10 plus years of budgeting experience. And then at the end, maybe we'll talk about some community activity, things that are happening inside the free personal finance community that will definitely help you reach your goals. Okay, so let's go right to the YouTube comments. Sorry about that. And there's no comments. So this is the part of the video when I just want to give you guys value. So if you have any questions, if you're finding value from the stuff that I'm saying, let me know. Let's go right into this. Lessons from my 10 years of budgeting experience. So I've been trying really hard to think back like when I started all this stuff, because back in the day, I didn't know I was going to be making content around personal finances. I just had no idea. So I wasn't necessarily documenting the journey. It's been very challenging to kind of look back. But there was one event that really changed everything. My budgeting, we'll just call it path. Okay. My budgeting path. So what happened? Well, about 10 years ago, I was about to make the largest purchase I've ever made up to that point, which was a new car. And it turns out I didn't have enough money in my bank account to be able to give them the down payment. So not enough for down payment that I had promised them. I was like, yeah, I'll give you this amount. And then the day before, I realized I don't have that amount. So I scrambled around. I somehow found the money. This was a Friday afternoon. The meeting I had with them to get the car was Saturday. So I walked into the dealership. Somehow I walked away, or I should say drove away with the car. I was like, hey, don't cash this check until Tuesday, right? They didn't love that, but it's fine. I was able to drive off. They had all my information anyway. They knew where I lived. They knew how to, pull money. I don't know. They knew how to get a hold of me if something, if the check didn't go through or whatever. So I think they probably deal with that all the time. But anyway, on my way home, most people, when they buy a new car, I would imagine, I've never had this experience because I've only bought one new car and I had a miserable experience driving home. You probably try to play with all the gadgets. You probably try to see how fast you can go and like 0 to 60 or like, on a highway and a straightaway, it's like, oh yeah, let me open this thing up and see what I got here. I was just thinking to myself how dumb I was. I was sort of kicking myself for the amount of issues that I caused. It's like, you didn't even know how much money was in your bank account. This is like super embarrassing. So I was like, okay, something has to happen here because guys, I went to school for accounting. I went to literally college for accounting, and I was telling myself that I was good with finances, I was good with numbers, I was good with money, whatever. But the things I was telling myself were not true of the things that I was actually doing in my life, because I was not actually doing anything in my personal finances. So I drew a line in the sand, and it was basically like never again, right? Never again. So logically, I was like, okay, what's the first step that I can do to sort of resolve this issue? So I looked at my bank account for what ended up being 75 days. I told myself, just do it for a month. I ended up doing it for 75 days. Now, did doing this habit make me rich or pay off my debt or anything like that? Absolutely not. But what it did was it just gave me awareness. Now I knew immediately, every day, more or less how much money was in there. That's sort of step one. Again, this was awareness. This was not anything happening. Then it was like, okay, well, I probably need to in order to level this up, I really need to figure out what to do next. So I was like, okay, am I, is my bank account increasing or decreasing every month? So it was more of like, this is an action step that I took. And then it was like, okay, this is great and all, but how do I know where my money's actually going? It's like, okay, great. It went up a little this month. It went down a little this month, but how do I dive deeper? So then that's when I really started I'll do quotes here, budgeting. Because when I first started, it obviously wasn't perfect and it wasn't great, but what that looked like was like every time I made an expense, or an expense occurred, or a transaction occurred in my bank account, I should say, I just entered it into, a terrible, terrible, terrible free app. Free budgeting app. Terrible. The things that were available 10 years ago, maybe I just didn't know what to look for, but like so bad. The interface was just so bad. This was 10 years ago. The technology is obviously way better. It was actually so good that I've been able to create my own software service, budgeting software, debt tracking software. It's actually exclusively for people inside my community. So if that's interesting to you, I can talk a little bit more about that at the end if I remember. So this is, again, another action step, okay? So then I was like, budgeting. But the reason why I put quotes around this here is because, like, it wasn't really, I guess it was more like, we'll call it tracking. That's probably a better idea. Tracking. Because I was basically like, okay, I'd make a purchase, I'd put it in there, and then at the end of the month, I would sort of look and see what happened. But at the end of the month, there's no wiggle room. Like if I like overspent, like I overspent, there's no way to like go around that. And by overspent, I mean like spending more than I'm making, right? So then it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I do next? It's like, well, I need to like create a plan based on monthly income where I can't spend a certain amount more than what I'm making, right? Obviously. So if I made, I don't know, 3K a month, I can't spend more than 3K a month. And now this is budgeting. And that's another action item that I took. And then that really opened my eyes to like, oh, wow, okay, so something is, I do have control over this. And then I would break it out category by category. Classic budgeting stuff, right? It's like, okay, how much am I spending on groceries? How much am I spending on gas? How much am I spending on all the things, right? And then that really opened my eyes to like, okay, this is great and all, but like, what's like kind of the next step? And again, this is another action item that I took. What I want you guys to actually know before I continue is like, just look at the simplicity of these things. So I looked at my bank account for 75 days. That doesn't sound very hard, right? And then it was, is my bank account increasing or decreasing? It's an action item. It's sort of more in the awareness thing, but it's more like I'm being more thoughtful and I'm thinking about the process, right? And then it was like, okay, I can just enter what I spend into like some free budgeting app or something, and that's another action that I would take. So I'd go to the grocery store, okay, boom, $100. Let's just add $100 quickly to the whatever, to the app, and it would call it groceries. And then based on, let's say, use the 3K a month thing, because back then I wasn't making a lot of money at all. Create a plan based on monthly income budgeting. So it was like, okay, now for groceries, if I know I'm spending $100 a week, for example, then I should budget for $400, and then just kind of see what happens at the end and make sure that all my budgeting amounts total the amount of money that I'm making, the 3K, right? And then look category by category. It's like, oh, okay, where was I actually for groceries? Where was I actually for Amazon? Was Amazon big back then? I don't know. We'll just call it like shopping. I guess it was like a thing, right? Yeah. Well, anyway, 10 years ago, it's hard to remember, right? Break it out category by category. And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So let me but then it's like, cool. I still only have a certain amount of resources. And I'm not really making any progress. Like I would look and like, at the end of the month, I still had no extra money. So like, this is very, very cool and all, but like, now what? What do I do now? It's like, okay, well, what's important to me? And these are now what I call North Star goals. So I would recommend you trying that for you. Like, what's actually important to you? Because we all have, at the end of the day, we all have limited resources, right? So time, money, effort, sacrifices. I do know how to spell. We all have limited resources. We all have the same amount of time every day. We all have different, money resources. We all have different, put in different effort in, resources. But we all have the ability to put in effort and things like that to things that we care about, right? So how do I use my limited resources to apply to this, right? How do I like sync these things up here? Well, what I did was basically what's happening here? There we go. I basically just pulled forward expenses for things I cared about the most. Okay, so at the time, definitely a different life, but like I was with my wife now. She's my girlfriend, but we had I don't know, we had like plans that we cared about. We had money goals, so it was like, oh, it'd be very cool one day if like we could buy a house. So it's like, how do we do all this? Well, I paid myself first. Pay yourself first, meaning think about the things that matter to you the most. When you get a paycheck and you instantly shove money away from your like current bank account, from your visuals, from your eyesight. If you're checking your bank account every day, you don't want to think that you have this money. Move it towards something that is a financial goal. Move it towards something that is a life goal, or just move it towards something that is a non-negotiable. And this could literally be anything. Okay, so I was working with someone in his personal finances, and when he was going through his North Star goal list, he basically had a non-negotiable where he's like, hey, I get these very, very, very expensive haircuts, and me and my family have been going to this guy for like 20 years, and he's basically family. So the haircuts are like $80 like every 2 weeks, and sure, I could definitely go to like a cheaper place and save, $150 a month, but this is just something that I'm not willing to give up. And he was almost trying to convince me that he's like, this is why I need to do this, because I don't. The North Star goals are your list, right? So I was like, that's amazing that you have a non-negotiable. So what you do is you just write down, you include that in your non-negotiables, and then we work around everything else. So anything not on that North Star goal list, anything not here. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Anything not here, we are giving ourselves permission to be able to let go of. Okay. And so it could be anything. It could be like, hey, I want to save for a house, or hey, I get expensive haircuts. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, like we have to make trades in life with our resources, so we can't have everything. I wish I could tell you that we could have everything, but we literally can't. So how it would work for me was, let's say, I got paid, and then I would move, say, I don't know, $200 each paycheck out of my checking. And I could have just set up like have it direct deposited, but I didn't know what I was doing back then, right? So I just like got the paycheck and I shoved it over to my savings account, just in my bank account. It wasn't even optimized. It wasn't some high yield savings account. I just like moved it out of my checking, and I use my checking as like my end all be all for the amount of money that I can spend every month. And this I was trying to build up savings. So this is like another action item, right? And then once I started seeing results, I was like, oh, wow, I'm like actually saving like some money here. So it ended up being, of course, $400 a month. I got paid every other week. And then $400 a month times 12 months is $4,800. Basically like $5,000 saved in a year. And that was more than I've like intentionally had saved. Now, for a while in my early 20s, like I didn't really have, like I had money per se, but I didn't know like what was happening with it. And at this point I was like living on my own and everything, so it was like obviously like kind of a tight living situation with money and stuff like that. But for me, I was able to move that $200 out of each paycheck. And what happened is thinking back to this one, right at the end of the month I still had no extra money. At the end of the month doing this, I still had no extra money. However, I was moving the $200 each paycheck out of my checking account, and I was basically trading $200 of me spending elsewhere to help reach my financial goals. Now, at this point, I still had a lot of like debt and everything like that, but it was just more focused on just kind of saving money for saving money's sake. Okay. And this whole time, I was like, this is great. How do I like continue to do this? So I was just trying to find longer term accountability, because this is just probably the most important thing right? Because I do talk about this a lot, but if you're new to me, my AAA framework is awareness, okay, action, and accountability. So imagine you had awareness. You're like, okay, here's I think where I stand with my finances, or at least like here's something that I know now, right? Here's an action I can take. So you could see a lot of these action items that I took, but then you didn't know how to like keep doing it month after month. So you do this thing. You're like, oh, I'm very aware of where my money's been going. Okay, yep, I'm able to like realign it to things that matter to me the most. But then you only did that for 2 months, and then you fell off the wagon for 3 months, and then you try to get back on it again. You'd have to basically start from scratch. So it's like you're almost creating this scenario. If I were to draw a graph where you're like, okay, great, I'm aware now. I'm taking some action, and then you don't know what you're doing, so you flatline, and then you have to kind of go back here, and then you're like, oh my god, like what's happening with the finances? So you're like, all right, let me get reaware again, let me take the action, and this time it happens faster because you've already done the thing, but then you plateau again. Imagine if you just like make slow incremental progress, right? And this is the chart that a lot of people would prefer, and I think a lot of people would prefer it on like a much shorter timeline like this, right? But that's just not that reasonable. And actually, why isn't this deleting? Here we go. And actually, what a lot of people think, or what a lot of people's chart actually looks like is this, and they like barely feel anything, right? And a lot of people just quit, like right here. Right? They quit like right here because it's like, nah, man, nothing's working. But they forget that this is right around the corner. And I guess it's more like this right here. And yeah, this is just terrible graphing. So I do apologize for that. Where does this text go? Did all this text just disappear? Is it when I hit the erase button? Let's see. Yeah, why did that happen? Okay. So anyway, let's just delete this because, whatever. But you guys get the point here. Hopefully what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, and then the software, the budgeting software that I created. So, very excited about this. This is something that I had in my long-term plan for my personal finance, kind of helping people with personal finances as like a long-term thing. The way technology is now, I was able to create this all by myself with the help of AI. And again, I just thought I needed like software engineers to build something like this. But that's just not the truth. So we're talking today about budgeting. So I'm going to just show you quickly what this is all about. Basically, the way I have it set up is like every month you can sort of click through, and I've had some information input here, but there's like budget summaries of like, hey, how much money am I making, the total expenses, actual money I'm making versus actual money I'm spending. Am I over budgeting, under budgeting? Am I overspending, underspending? I have it set up in different categories. So I have an income category, a debt category, which I'm actually the most excited about. I'm not going to dive into that right now because I could talk about that section for a while. And I could tease it at the end of this here. So saving and investing. So this is basically like two financial goal things that I just think are really important. And then expenses. So I have a lot of categories in here. But it's all customized to you. So the only thing I don't let people customize right now, just at the beginning, at the onset, is the major 4 categories. So you would have to fit whatever you want into these 4 categories. But at the end of the day, what you could do is like you could just literally delete a whole category here. I'm not going to do that. Or you could add a category, right? So if I go test, we're going to add a category into housing, and then I open up, boom, test. And then you can add a transaction here. So let's say it's $100 for this date. And this is, I don't know, Whole Foods. I guess $100 at Whole Foods, you get like 3 items. But yeah, it's just, where did that go? Was I on, no, I wasn't even on groceries. Where did I add this to? Sorry. Oh, because I was in September. I do apologize. So yeah, this was test under housing. So kind of a silly example. Obviously you wouldn't have Whole Foods under housing, but you get the point that I'm trying to say. And that's kind of the cool part about this is like, yeah, I made a transaction today, so it would actually just show up in your September budget. What you could do when you're done is you can close the month, and it's locked here. So now I can't add a transaction. I can't view any transaction. I can't change anything. You can unlock it and open it back up. But it's just very sort of simple, and it just helps you. There's a dashboard here showing you all the stuff here just at a quick glance. I really like this interactive category here where it's like your top spending. So you could just sort of hover over and see like where you're spending your most money. There's a debt progress section here. So this is just so cool that I just love this part. I think it's one of the more intuitive like budget tracking things in here for debts. I know there's specific debt stuff that's out there, but basically it's just like, yeah, what's your debt? How do you like play around with to see how quickly you can pay it off faster? What's the payment schedule look like individually? So you can go through here and just see like what are the approximate payments and all this stuff like that. It just gives you a nice little summary. So anyway, I was gonna open it to the entire public, the entire world, but I just think it's very cool to just have it only accessible to people inside my community here, Dollar Discipline University. So if you're interested, the link is down below. I'm helping people just like you save more money, pay off debt, just build more confidence in your personal finances. Because I think everyone deserves a chance to just improve, no matter where you are. If you feel like you're at the depths of of life, or if you're just like you're crushing it, but you want to take the next step. So I have a bunch of people in there with those situations. If you're still watching this, then I'm sure you're kind of interested in maybe trying to find more hidden cash flow, okay, in your finances. So this is the cash flow kickstart that I have. It's a 2-day sprint. It's a group call, but basically I'm going to help you figure out where your money's been going, how to realign your money to things that matter the most, and how to keep that momentum month after month. So if we think about the AAA framework that I mentioned, where your money has been going, that's awareness. How to realign your money to things that matter the most, that is action. And then how to keep that momentum month after month, that is accountability. So those 3 AAA frameworks works. I've actually implemented that in other parts of my life, and it's just like, it just works. It just works. Like you have to just confront the issue. And I realize for maybe some of you that could be the challenge. You don't want to confront the issue at all. Like it's kind of scary to look at it because you know you're not going to like it. But in my experience, and then also talking with other people, the confronting it is scary until you confront it, and it's like, oh, it's either not as bad as you think, or it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm the one responsible for being able to make a change, so I can just change stuff. I can just change how things are happening. I can realign my money. Like I have a limited amount of resources, so I'm gonna stop spending my time, my money, my effort on all this other crap that I'm doing, and just put it towards paying off debt, saving money. Whatever the thing is, right? So if these videos are interesting to you guys, let me know down in the comments what challenges you're having. Because again, I'm doing these videos daily, so I'd love to get some feedback from everyone in here, just because it really helps me like figure out what you guys want me to talk about. So that's going to do it for this video. Again, doing these daily, so I will see you tomorrow.